Thank you to Aura for sponsoring a portion of today's video. Emotions are your body's messengers. They exist to help us survive and thrive. Even painful emotions, although we might not always like them, exist to serve a specific function, even if it's just, oh god, the car next to me is swerving. I'm scared. Maybe I should get out of the way. I think before going into how to actually use your emotions like messengers, how to listen to what they're trying to communicate, I'd like to start off with a story. I have had a frayed relationship with anxiety for about 6 years. And during those 6 years, I tried everything to get rid of it. I tried mindfulness, I learned every coping skill in the book, I tried different kinds of therapy, tried meditating, I tried acceptance, I tried soothing my nervous systems, all things that are scientifically shown to help with anxiety and things that I've promoted on this channel as well. But nothing really seemed to work, and it got to a head about a month ago where I started to get kind of hopeless. I started to feel like I don't think I'll ever be able to get rid of anxiety. I was definitely avoiding the feeling of anxiety for a while there. And at the time, actually, my therapist encouraged me to, instead of trying to get rid of it, trying to lean into what it might be trying to communicate to me. So I did. And I started to notice certain patterns. I started to notice that the anxiety would often take hold in the evening when I was just relaxing, watching TV after dinner. When I was not really doing anything, just these random worries would take hold of me. So I thought, okay, what might this be trying to communicate to me? Maybe it's trying to say I need to do something more active in my evenings, keep myself a little bit more occupied. So the next night, I went for a walk instead of watching TV. But when I got back home, I couldn't sleep because I started to have these racing thoughts and anxiety came up. And I realized that that was definitely not the message that my anxiety was trying to send. It was not trying to say, be productive or be stimulated 100% of the time. What I had done by going on a walk instead of doing my usual routine was just postponing the anxiety a little bit later. But I thought, okay, clearly I got the message wrong. What is my anxiety actually trying to say to me then? Why does this scream at me every time I'm trying to relax? I never could figure it out. And then I graduated from grad school, and something amazing happened. The moment it ended, the moment I finished my internship and I got my degree conferred, it was like a weight was lifted off my chest. I know people say that as like a common expression, but believe me when I say I could feel it. I could feel myself breathing easier. I felt like my chest was more spacious. I could sleep better. I'd stopped waking up with my heart racing. My nervous system felt a lot more soothed. I've been finding it a lot easier to align with my values every single day, something which, if you've bought my mental health journal, you are familiar with. That's like a part of everyday journaling that I do. I've been finding it so much easier to do courageous things, do things that make me uncomfortable or scared, like driving long distances on the highway, things like that. I've been able to just relax and let out my inner child. Like this one time I was just watching stupid TV and doodling and not even caring about the fact that the doodles weren't very pretty. I just let myself bask in the imperfection and just have a little bit of fun without any point to it. I've been able to experience such joy that it really moved me to tears. Like I went on a hike a couple weeks ago and I sat on these rocks in the middle of this creek and just feeling the water flow, watching it ripple all smooth like butter, hearing the wind in the trees. It suddenly occurred to me that there was a lot that had kind of been robbed from me during grad school. And I honestly haven't had an anxious episode since then, since I finished grad school. And then I realized something very important. The anxiety was not something that was wrong with me. It was not my mind or my body failing me. It was my mind and my body trying to cope with an overwhelming situation, which in this case was a doctoral program. I now believe that this emotion was trying to communicate the circumstance, this level and type of stress is not good for you. It's not healthy for you. This is not a sustainable setting that you're in right now. And this is an important piece that I'd like for you to remember. A lot of times, especially in CBT, you'll be asked to sort of track your emotions throughout the week, especially anxiety if you're coming in for anxiety. And you're supposed to notice any patterns in terms of triggers, things that help. And a lot of the times it can get pretty nitty-gritty and you can kind of lose sight of the forest for the trees, like I did, where you're wondering, oh, like I'm getting anxious when I'm just relaxing after dinner. Maybe I shouldn't relax after dinner. It might not be that zoomed in. It might be that you need to actually zoom out a little bit. In my case, those moments of relaxation were just the only time that my body could communicate something to me through an emotion, because I was doing something the whole rest of the day, so it never had a chance to. It wasn't trying to tell me don't relax, it was trying to tell me something about your lifestyle is not working right now. And I was never able to realize that while I was in the throes of that lifestyle, because there was never a moment when I was not in it. No matter whether I was on vacation or whatever, I was always a grad student until the moment that I graduated. So I never got a chance to realize, oh, when I detach myself from this big picture, the anxiety goes away. So zoom out. If you cannot figure out what an emotion means, what it's trying to say to you, you might be too bogged down in the specifics and you might need to just take a step back. Now, I alluded to this before, but I think this example really showcases the importance of not fusing yourself with your emotions. I've made videos before about why you shouldn't identify with your mental diagnosis or with a specific emotion, because if you're doing that, then you're basically saying, I am my anxiety, I am my sadness, I am my anger. And I've absolutely been guilty of this in the past. I've even described myself as an anxious person. But I think that it always didn't sit right with me because it felt a little bit like condemning myself to the self-fulfilling prophecy. When I really should have been thinking about it from the frame of, I have a relationship with anxiety. This anxiety is trying to communicate something to me that I haven't quite deciphered yet, and I still need to do a little bit of work to figure out what it's trying to say. So it would really piss me off anytime someone would say, Anna, you're such an anxious person, because it would feel like, why are you condemning me to this? Why are you dooming me to this? Let's think about it from the lens of someone with narcissistic personality disorder who's frequently angry. They probably could identify as an angry person, and it might be objectively accurate for them at that point in time. But should they do that without actually examining what the anger is trying to communicate to them? In the case of anger, anger is what we feel when an injustice has occurred against us, when we feel someone's being unfair to us. And a lot of the times in narcissism, especially in vulnerable narcissism, that comes up frequently because narcissists feel like injustices occur against them a lot, even in situations where most people would argue that's not a real injustice, that's just you not receiving special treatment that you feel entitled to. So in that case, chronic anger would probably be trying to communicate, hey, you feel slighted by people a lot. I would look into why that is. And the answer would be, well, I feel like a lot of injustices happen against me because I feel entitled to special treatment, because I am trying to fill a void of self-worth that I can't get from within, that I'm trying to get from other people. So you see how when you're trying to get at the underlying message of an emotion rather than fusing with the emotion, you're better able to resolve what the emotion's actually trying to say to you. Whereas if you just say, oh, I'm an angry person, that's just the way it is, you don't even question it, you don't look into it, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, before I go into a step-by-step of how to actually figure out what your emotions are trying to say to you, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Aura. One really great way to listen to your emotions is by meditating. Like in the example I gave, where the only time I was really hearing this message from anxiety was when I was relaxing, when I wasn't doing anything else. Aura is a new all-in-one app with a very extensive library of mindfulness meditation, stories, sleep tracks, hypnosis, and much more. And what makes it unique is that it provides personalized recommendations based on your goals and preferences. So when you first download the app, you can actually identify what your goals are for using it. It uses AI to tailor playlists to your needs. So for instance, you can pick beginner or advanced meditation depending on your level of commitment. I personally love the longer meditations and the hypnosis because it just helps me get into a deep state of relaxation and also prepares me for sleep. Over 7 million people have used the app, which has over 30,000 5-star reviews, and it won the Best of Apple award, so you know it's legit. Aura is a great way to process your emotions within the very comfort of your own home. The first 500 people to sign up with my link will get a free trial and an extra 25% off, so check the link in the description box. Thank you so much, Aura. So how do you actually listen to what your emotions are trying to say to you? Step 1, very bare bones, you have to actually identify the emotion, and for a lot of people, that in and of itself is very challenging. I do have a couple videos that go into how to do that. It generally involves paying attention to your bodily sensations. You can use something like an emotion graph or an emotion wheel to try to figure out what is it really that I'm feeling, kind of by working backwards. Then step 2, once you've actually identified the emotion, you have to have a rudimentary understanding of what each emotion typically means across humans. DBT has a really good rundown on what each emotion typically signals in its emotion regulation chapter, so check it out if you're interested. To give you just a basic overview of the main emotions, like I said, anger tends to signal an injustice has happened against you. Sadness tends to signal that you've lost something important to you. Fear or anxiety tends to signal there's something dangerous about what's going on here or what's going on in the future. Envy typically means someone else has something that you want and you feel you can't have. Jealousy is what you feel when someone's trying to take away something that you care about or you perceive that to be happening. So those are the main painful emotions, as it were. Obviously, I think it's pretty simple to deduce what the pleasant emotions mean. Step 3, once you've identified the emotion, you have a general understanding of what it usually means, try to make a hypothesis about what this emotion could mean for you in the specific situation. So, going back to the example I gave, my initial hypothesis was, oh, anxiety is trying to tell me I need to do something more stimulating, more active in the evenings rather than just watching TV. Step 4, put the hypothesis to the test. See if it's supported or not. So I went for a walk instead of watching TV, and when I came back, the anxiety was just postponed. So I figured, that's probably not a very good hypothesis. Let's scratch that. Step 5, you keep trying out different hypotheses by trial and error, trying to figure out what is this emotion trying to say to you. Like I mentioned, something that can help you out is to try to zoom out. Don't get too specific. Don't get too specific with the triggers. Something else that can help you is paying attention to dreams. I find the dreams really augment certain emotions that I didn't realize were that powerful during waking hours. Like the other day I had a dream about missing Chicago and really loving it. And when I woke up and I felt it really powerfully, I realized, I have a lot of really positive associations and nostalgia associated with Chicago. So pay attention to your dreams, as they tend to augment the meaning of certain emotions for you. A therapist can obviously be very helpful to get you to figure out what an emotion might be trying to say, because a therapist already has an understanding of what these emotions typically mean, and also because you can only see things from your perspective, and another person, especially a person who's trained to look at this sort of stuff, has a very important vantage point where they might see certain things that you actually have as a blind spot. I would suspect that the harder it is for you to figure out what the emotion is trying to communicate, the more big picture it is, like it was in my case. Your emotions might not be trying to say, oh, this specific thing scares you, or you don't like to be in this specific situation. It might be trying to say something very big picture, like this is not the career for you, this is not the partner for you, you have serious self-esteem issues, like very big stuff that's going to be a little harder to solve. And at that point, you go to step 6, and step 6 is to make a decision. Either you listen to the emotion and do what it's trying to ask of you, or you might have to accept that you might always need to live with this emotion. For instance, if you're constantly feeling sadness and you realize that that sadness is trying to say to you that your partner doesn't treat you very well, that they make you feel like shit about yourself, you have a decision to make. Either you want to let go of the partner and therefore the sadness doesn't need to come up as often, or it might be that you decide to stay with this person, but that sadness will always kind of stay with you. Remember, emotions are entities with which you have a relationship, and they exist to protect you, to keep you safe. And so if you're not listening to them, they're probably just going to scream louder and louder to be heard. They're probably not going to let up. Let me know what you thought about this. Thank you to Aura for sponsoring this video. And also just wanted to say, it's actually been a while since I recorded. You guys don't know this, but I took like almost a month-long hiatus where I had pre-recorded a bunch of videos. And I'm actually really excited to be back. I was really itching to write content, record, edit, all that stuff. So very happy to be back. Have some really exciting stuff coming up. So if you liked the video, hit like, subscribe. See you soon.